Well, eNCA reporter Masego Rahlaga attended that briefing. She joins me now. So, Masego, it was a long briefing. I found it quite difficult to get a handle on exactly what it was all about. It also had some quite interesting moments. Just talk to us about that.
Well, Sally, really, I think a lot of the journalists who covered this press briefing and the public who watched it have mixed reactions in terms of exactly what was said by ANC veteran Tokyo Sexwale. He couldn't really give us much information that we asked for. Most of his answers to us was for us to help him as journalists to investigate the case further. He couldn't, for instance, answer any of my colleagues when they asked him, for instance, the fact that you cannot transfer directly costs to the South African Reserve Bank. He couldn't answer that, and he couldn't really tell us if the funds or if he's seen the funds that were transferred to the bank account. But he did give us the bank account number. He did say, for instance, that the student protesters, the fees must fall student protesters, should print that bank account number on their T-shirts, for instance, Sally, because he says some of that money is meant for them. He gave us quite a few emails that he sent to, for instance, President Cyril Ramaphosa, the Finance Minister Tito Mboweni, as well as the Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago, from about February, 14th of February 2019, and that's the proof that he's basically given us. But the turn of events that you're talking about, Sally, is something that we didn't expect as journalists. A gentleman, a shareholder at the South African Reserve Bank, confirming that Tokyo Sexwale's allegations are in fact true. And I bring him in, Fanie Fondse. Thank you very much, sir. You're live on eNCA. Now, you stood up and you said a couple of words that had a lot of people who are either here or watching on the television a bit surprised by your confirmation. Just tell us why you are saying that you can confirm that this account does exist and that the money has been stolen.
Well, thank you. First of all, I'm well acquainted with the whole system of the international banking system, and also with the White Spiritual Boy and Spiritual Wonder Boy accounts. And I also know the originator thereof and the current owner thereof in person. So I do not have to work through a proxy. I was involved in many investigations and even reports to the World Bank itself, the US Treasury, the Bank of International Settlements, and to the IMF, who was responsible to oversee the proper management of these accounts.
Mr. Fondse, I think you know by now that South Africans are people who like to believe things when there's been proof. But so far we've heard yourself and Mr. Sexwale saying that you can confirm definitely that this money exists, etc. What is the proof that you can provide to us? Because you couldn't even really give us the proof, for instance, that there is an investigation, at least an investigation case number. You couldn't provide for us as well because you're saying you're being gagged. So how do we help you if you can't give us information?
Well, look, Mr. Sexwale, inquiry by the police is different from my own. I do have a case number. I think it is 318-04-2021.
Does this have to do with this case or the case you opened against the president earlier this week?
It's the same case. And it involves racketeering and many other criminal transgressions. And obviously, the press now has basically stated it's against the president, but that is an assumption. There are a lot of possible culprits being listed and charges being listed for investigation against him. So if it is the president, it is by chance. I cannot go on public stage and say that I have charged the president. That there is documents supporting that, it's true, and that I have financial statements from the World Bank that confirms the accounts. I in person has made a summary of the accounts of all the banks in South Africa to the Reserve Bank of South Africa for the proper attention of the people responsible, and to which I haven't reacted. The same strategy that we are following with Comrade Sexwale.
All right, so thank you so much. So basically, Mr. Fondse's allegation is the same as Mr. Sexwale's allegation that he has been, that they have been trying to get a hold of officials within government and in different offices, and they have essentially been blue-ticked. That's what the people on Twitter are calling it, and these are the people that the Sexwale is actually responding to. But Sally, I did ask Mr. Sexwale, in terms of the evidence that he gave us today, all it is emails that he had sent to the 3 different offices that I mentioned earlier, the Presidency, Reserve Bank, as well as the Finance Ministry. And I asked him, but that's just proof that you communicated. What proof do you have to give us that this bank account does exist and there's money in that bank account? He said that he had given some documents to Lesita Kganyago after the first letter, and when they met with Ntate Kganyago to swap those notes, Mr. Kganyago didn't get back to him after that and went AWOL on him. So, but here is the question that I asked Tokyo Sexwale about more proof that this money really does exist and this account does exist. And his answer was that as journalists, he needs our help. He can't prove that. Here he is.
Shown us documents of letters that you've sent to the likes of the President, the Reserve Bank Governor, as well as the Minister of Finance, but you haven't shown us proof that this money actually exists and that it was in that account. Can you give us the proof that there was that money that went to the South African Reserve Bank, besides the letters that were not responded to? Can you give us, for instance, the documents that you say you handed over to the Reserve Bank Governor, showing the fraud that was happening, and he didn't respond?
Masego, you are not listening to me. You are scaring me. The answers are in the letters we are going to give you. Let's go to the first one. Sorry, can I speak now? Sorry about that. I'm just, I'm being talking. I'm quite humorous in this situation. Masego, I can't show you the money because I'm trying to get it out. But I'm telling you my account. Help me, investigative journalist. Bring it out. I've got no banks. I don't have that corruption to show you the money. I have shown you the money, Masego. Please.
So, Masego, I am so confused by this story. First of all, the gentleman you've just interviewed, Fanie Fondse, who is a shareholder at the Reserve Bank, the Presidency has already issued a statement about his allegations, saying they're completely false, absolutely incorrect, inaccurate. So we need to put that out there. But secondly, if this was an attempt to clear up the confusion, Tokyo Sexwale started by saying, I'm going to show you who's really scamming who. I still don't understand it. You listen to every word. If you could put into 1 or 2 sentences what he is saying actually, according to his version of events, has happened, I would be very grateful. And I think everyone watching would be as well.
Well, Sally, I think we are all in the same boat. Most of us as journalists actually tried to doorstop Mr. Sexwale after his presentation to try and ask him more questions for clarity, but he turned us down. So if you ask me to give you 2 sentences, and before I get there, actually, Mr. Fanie Fondse, we still need to speak to him a little bit further. It's just that we didn't have time.
Sure.
But Sally, what he's saying is that this goes back to 1996. His allegation is that this bank account, as well as these funds, actually go back to 1966. So we still need to question him on that. But in terms of those 2 sentences that you're asking me for, if I had to wrap it up for you, I would say he says the money does exist. He was given a mandate to make sure that the money is used to assist the country. It doesn't belong to South Africa, really. It's money that actually belongs to the entire continent and other countries such as India. But in terms of proof that the money is there, that it has been stolen, he said that as journalists we need to step in and help him prove it, because he's been ignored by the powers that be in terms of proving that there's been money laundering and fraud with those funds.
All right, so that was a really good attempt. I'm a little clearer. Who's he saying stole the money? Does he not know? Does he want you to sort that out?
So he wants us to sort that out as well for him, Sally. He says that although he knows some of the people involved, he is not at liberty to share that information. He says that the hawks are involved. He says that the Hawks have in fact advised him not to share that information. So that's where we are right now with the story. But he did promise, Sally, towards the end of his, his turning us down to speak to him outside, he said, we haven't heard the last of it. So we're hoping the more he speaks to us and the more we get in contact with other people ourselves, that we'll get more clarity on this, because if it is true, it's quite a big scam.